For many people, this is a scary time. Here is what much of our community has racing through their heads. The potential of escalation in trade wars with tariffs still very well could cause prices to rise dramatically. The potential of freezes to federal grants could wreak havoc on not-for-profit organizations that rely on such funds. Anti-immigrant rhetoric has crossed into growing anti-immigrant policy, and fear of ICE agents is directly impacting many around us, even those who are in the United States legally. The LGBTQ community is under assault. The US has stopped its efforts to support developing countries through USAID, curtailing programs on which much of the world depend. Climate change continues only to get worse, and the US has withdrawn from the Paris Agreement. The US now apparently supports forcing Palestinians out of Gaza. People like Elon Musk are inexplicably gaining access to highly sensitive government systems for reasons I fear we still truly don't understand. And to boot, the Department of Education may soon be going the way of the dodo. Whether or not you agree with each and every one of these, one has to admit, for those who do, it's a lot to hold at one time. I don't know about you, but that is how I feel. The world is almost always stressful. However, this moment is definitely more stressful than most. Last year, a survey by the American Psychological Association, that's the APA, showed that nearly 2/3 of American adults named politics as a significant source of their stress. That was in 2024. I'd hazard a guess that in 2025, the polls will have even higher numbers. It's more than this, though. This kind of sustained stress breaks us down. Psychology Today recently explained in an article how that takes place. First, we now face perpetual emotional triggers. As I think I've already made clear, there's hardly a break from the daily onslaught of bad news, bad faith debates, and badly upsetting arguments. Second, we engage in hyper-awareness and overthinking. This leads to us trying to problem-solve countless challenges coming our way. It's exhausting, and as I think many of us know deep down, so many of these big problems have no realistic near-term solution. So we just spin our wheels. Third, and finally, we experience the, and I quote, erosion of anhedonia recovery. Let me translate that to English for you. It means we have fewer moments when we can find ways to focus on the positive and experience joy. When we start finding ways to have those peaceful moments, well, see points numbers 1 and 2. And so the cycle continues and we spiral. None of this is good for us. There is a concrete negative impact on our physical and psychological well-being from it. But, and this is important, it's also not good for the world. Sometimes we need to find ways to focus our energies in a more productive fashion. Sometimes we need to undermine ourselves in overloading on information and bad news. In a manner of speaking, our parashah this week, Beshalach, shows God doing precisely that for the Israelites. Beshalach tells the story, as I've already mentioned, of the Israelites' exodus from Egypt, and it includes a notorious preface. When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them, that is us, the Israelites, by the way of the land of the Philistines, even though it was shorter. Why? Because God said the people might have a change of heart when they see war, then want to return to Egypt. Yes, during the Exodus, God had to manage Israelites' emotional response on their journey to freedom. And during the rest of the Torah, by the way, we see that God's intuition was clearly right. Time and time again, basically the entirety of the book of Numbers, the Israelites demonstrate human frailty. They freak out. I imagine it was probably something like that. and they become overwhelmed by the circumstances of the wilderness and their journey, turning against Moses, Aaron, Miriam, and even God. To the extent that God was successful in God's attempt to handle the Israelites and their emotions, it was for a key reason. God sought to keep them, the Israelites, focused on the most pressing task ahead of them. Do any of you know, I'm sure a few of you at least do, the old Chinese proverb, which seems pretty relevant to this parashah and the beginning of our wilderness journey? A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. But how about this one? A turn on the same idea. How do you eat an elephant? Jack, you can't answer because I already told you the answer. Do any of you know how you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Well, we can no more eat an elephant, not kosher by the way, nor take a 1,000-mile journey all at once than we can solve all of our society's problems in one sitting. So in the face of the many daunting tasks and threats which may lie ahead, we have to prioritize and we have to focus. For me, the thing in the world right now that is dominating my attention, amongst many others, the bite of the elephant on which I focus, is the ongoing threat to immigrants. I want to be as clear about this as I possibly can. Before anything else, immigration can and often does create stressors within our society, especially in communities where immigrants may settle in large numbers and cause demographics to shift. To deny that isn't just unrealistic, but it also demonstrates a lack of empathy for people who can experience negative side effects of immigration, even when that immigration is legal. Nevertheless, I am still alarmed by what our country is doing to combat immigration, both legal and illegal. Immigration to the US is hardly easy as it is. Take it from someone who has seen the system rather closely, as Har and I worked for many, many months and spent many, many dollars just trying to get her a green card after a marriage. And although many people do enter the US illegally with the intention to be here in that way, most folks who wind up undocumented aren't hoping for that. Instead, the obscenely Byzantine American immigration system makes it horrendously difficult for people to come to our country, even when by American law they are allowed to be here. Add to that ICE is currently engaged in an effort to deport countless thousands of people from our country, at least partially, just to send a symbolic message. But the human beings that will be affected by that are not mere tools for messaging. They're real people with real families and real lives. So, to the elephant, one bite at a time. Allow me to give you 3 ways we can all be working to protect our immigrant neighbors, should this be where you feel the capacity to focus your attention right now. And by the way, if this isn't and it's somewhere else, that's perfectly fine. All of the recommendations I'm going to give come from a local leading immigration attorney, Nazli Mamyadova, who suggested them to me when we sat down earlier this week to talk. Number 1, this is simple, but it can save lives. Please help to distribute Know Your Rights cards. I'll give you a second because I put up so much text on the screen, you're going to read and stop listening to me. So read away, do your thing. Help to distribute these Know Your Rights cards, and we've got a basket of them out front that you can take. Give them to people who may be at risk. These come from immigration attorneys, and they can help people who are in jeopardy to avail themselves not of some loophole, but of the rights they are guaranteed by the US law and Constitution. Bring them to cafes you frequent, your place of work. Give them to friends, neighbors, anyone you think may be in a position to get them to the people who need them and need this information. 2, help us find more attorneys to protect and represent local immigrants. There is a growing number of un- and underrepresented immigrants who are going to need pro bono assistance in this time. and there are not nearly enough immigration attorneys available to make that happen. However, there are ways for attorneys with other areas of expertise to quickly become trained in what they most need to know to provide that pro bono legal help to immigrants. If you're an attorney, we're a Jewish community, so some of us are, reach out to me, and I will put you in touch with the folks who can offer this training. And if you're not an attorney, talk to the attorneys you know, family, friends, neighbors. Encourage them to take part in this sort of effort and send them my way too. Together, by doing that, we will have real impact and protect those in need. Third, finally, there is an opportunity for folks of any background to become legal observers in our region's immigration courts. Most of the time, believe it or not, there are no observers present at immigration hearings. But data shows that when anyone beyond the usual suspects, the usual characters, a bad idiom in this context, anyone beyond the usual characters in court attend, judges and prosecutors are more respectful of the rights of the people whose fates they determine. The nearest immigration courts, anyways, to Cincinnati are in Cleveland and in Louisville, a bit of a schlep. However, there are also ways to become eligible to observe immigration proceedings via teleconference. Just by showing up even virtually, you can help to keep folks safe. So if you're interested in information, be in touch. I'll put you in touch with the folks to get that information. Well, by way of beginning to conclude, if you will permit it, allow me to share a final bonus bit of elephant wisdom. This in poetry form from based on an old parable. Who would have thought there was so much poetry or so much wisdom on elephants? It was 6 men of Indostan, to learning much inclined, who went to see the elephant, though all of them were blind, that each by observation might satisfy his mind. The first approached the elephant, and happening to fall against his broad and sturdy side, at once began to bawl, "God bless me, but the elephant is very like a wall." The second, feeling of the tusk, cried, "Ho, what have we here? So very round and sharp, smooth and sharp, to me 'tis mighty clear. This wonder of an elephant is very like a spear." The third approached the animal, and happening to take the squirming trunk within his hands, thus boldly up and spake, "I see," quoth he, "the elephant is very like a snake." The fourth reached out an eager hand and felt about the knee. "What most this wondrous beast is like is mighty plain," quoth he. "'Tis clear enough the elephant is very like a tree." The fifth, who chanced to touch the ear, I will pause, I don't know why he's on a ladder. The fifth, who chanced to touch the ear, said, "Even the blindest man can tell what this resembles most. Deny the fact who can. This marvel of an elephant is very like a fan." The sixth no sooner had begun about the beast to grope, than seizing on the swinging tail that fell within his scope, "I see," quoth he, "the elephant is very like a rope." And so these men of Indostan disputed loud and long, each in his own opinion exceeding stiff and strong, though each was partly in the right, and all were in the wrong. Friends, we've already talked about how we eat the elephant, so to speak, one bite at a time, and we tried to take a bite out of it right here tonight, this Shabbat. However, undoubtedly we have an entire elephant in front of us. While we each can only work one bite at a time, it will take all of our efforts to fully wrap our head around the challenges of the world. No one of us can fully understand or grapple with these problems on our own. They will seem different to each of us, depending on which side of them we stand. We must each take the bit we can, lest we overwhelm ourselves. And doing so, we must focus, do our best, and work to improve the world, one bite, one step, and one act of tikkun olam at a time. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will.